Packers Nation, welcome back. Packers on the Rocks is here for episode 7. Just wanted to first off start by saying happy holidays to everybody out there. Hope they had a great Thanksgiving with family and friends, even though it didn't turn out to be that great of a week for how the Packers game went here last night. And I also thought it was very fitting to go ahead and wear a NFC North division title shirt here. Being that this is probably one of the last times that you'll get to see an NFC North title in Green Bay. But with that being said, let's go ahead and kick off episode 7. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, cheers, bud.
And Packers on the Rocks is going to be a little bit different here this episode. Unlike the Packers front office and coaching staff, Packers on the Rocks will actually be making some mid-season adjustments or some new wrinkles to the show, as recommended by some family and friends during that Thanksgiving week, putting a different twist on things. Some of the segments that we'll be doing is first and foremost, drinks of choice, where we'll be taking a particular cocktail drink and associating it with a particular player for that game. You'll see as we go on and play this thing out. And then we'll also have cheers and jeers of the game, the nightcap, the last call, along with what's ahead. Starting with what's on tap for the drink of choice. The very first one that we thought was very relevant to this game against the Philadelphia Eagles is none better than the Irish car bomb. Dave, I'll let you take it away for the Irish car bomb and how you think this fits not only this game, but even potentially more than that.
Yeah, it was, first of all, the whole season, right, is just one giant Irish car bomb. But specifically to this game, first 6 minutes, I don't think you could start a game any rougher than that one. I mean, march down the field. I think they had 6 total passing yards in the first drive. The rest were on the ground, a theme of the night. And then Rodgers throws a pick, and you're back in your own territory, starting out 13-0, and hey, at least they crawled their way back out of it a little bit, made it entertaining. But yeah, that was a rough first drink of the night, right?
I thought the Eagles offense was going to go 3 and out as well. We got them down to 3rd and long, and then here's Jalen Hurts going off for one of 150 plus yards on the night to go ahead and basically manhandle us at the defensive line and get the game started. It was funny for me because I know we were texting back and forth while I was taxiing the airport there and waiting to go off and getting some text updates from you. And I saw that we were quickly down 14-0. The plane took off, and then I had to wait until basically the end of the first quarter. And then the first thing you said to me was, it's looking like a boat race. And I'm like, what? A boat race? We're going to have a shootout with the Eagles? And I think it was 20-14 by the time I finally got back into it.
Yeah, it reminded me early on of the Kaepernick game. I mean, it was just could not stop him, put a spy on him, and he just got free. And it was, yeah, I thought it was going to be turn the TV off at halftime. But, to Packers fans that watch this, just couldn't do it. But, hey, at least the Packers made a game out of it, so I didn't have to drink half my bottle that night.
It was looking like it early on. I 100% agree with that. Jalen Hurts, we couldn't stop him the whole entire game. When he chose to get out of the pocket and run, he sort of dictated what he wanted to do the whole entire game. And then our defensive line. But, I mean, yeah, it's not only this game. It's been every game leading up until this where it's like, yeah, we can be able to overcome maybe a one-score deficit. But when it's 2 scores, that's insurmountable at this point.
Yeah, I would say depending on how much time is left on the clock, 1 score is sometimes enough to do it. So, yeah, it wasn't the start you wanted. I didn't understand necessarily the defensive game plan either. That's kind of more to come later in the show. But what do you got rolling down the bar for drink number 2, Jordan?
Drink number 2, we are looking at none better than, which is my favorite above all else, the old fashioned, which will pay tribute to whether it's players that flashback to yesteryear or former seasons, or even throwback plays that reminded us of the early 2000s or the 2010s. And I know you had a specific player that specifically fit the criteria of looking old-fashioned himself.
Yeah, AJ Dillon kind of looked like his old self. Maybe it's just the weather getting cold or whatever, but he was actually behind his pads, running with some authority and getting low and beating up the defenders, breaking some tackles, seeing them in the open field. He's your boy, so I'll let you kind of talk about him a little bit.
He's one of what, about like 15, 17 players that took a half step or even like a step back from last year, where I said this all of last season, and now I'm, retracting my statement. I'm like, I think AJ Dillon's a better back than Aaron Jones. The way he looked last year, our offense, when they finally got into rhythm and were moving the ball up and down the field, it was AJ Dillon drives.
Yeah.
And look no further than that, once again, that 49ers playoff game where once he went out, our offense had a real tough time being able to get anything going. And last night, he looked like his old self, where it seemed to me as though a lot of other games, he's pitter-pattering in the backfield. He's having a tough time reading the hole. And then he had that one, 15-yard plus touchdown run, super decisive, where he did a one cut and then just took off. Where
I think it's a combination of offensive line is taking a step back this year. There's just not that, running lanes there were. But you're right. He's not hitting the hole and going. He's very stagnant in the backfield. I don't know if it kind of looks like he's been dealing with a lot of aches and pains this year, hasn't it? It looks like he's not breaking as many tackles. He's kind of going down a little bit more. I've seen him kind of gimping off the field a little bit more this year. So I don't know if he's a little bit banged up. I don't know if he possibly maybe gained a little more weight than usual in the offseason. He's just looked a step slower and just a step, easier to kind of bring down this year. But this game, he looked the best he has all year.
And if you think about it too, which I don't think he's on like a full-on Eddie Lacy diet, but I think his weight has went up from last year. The mayor of Door County has maybe taken to the Wisconsin dairy products a little bit too much, where I've noticed that he's lost a little bit of burst. And then you think about it, to this time last year when our offense really started clicking is, what was it, that Seattle game where we eggshelled them 17-0, and AJ Dillon, that was basically like an AJ Dillon type game. And when you start heading into these colder weather months, that's when you do need a big 250-pound back like him truly coming into form. And maybe this is the start. We got a 3% playoff chance, and the path to the playoffs goes through AJ Dillon.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, he needs that's the recipe. That you nailed it on the head. It needs to be 30 carries a game for the backs. I don't care how it's split 15-15 or whatever you do, but that's the recipe that I think every Packer fan has known for the entire season is, 25 to 35 carries a game is your sweet spot. You can't let Rodgers be throwing it 40 times a game.
Even though he'll refuse to actually let that happen when you're getting paid the 50 mil per year. Yeah. And then moving on to drink number 3 here. We have your ultimate shot in the arm, unless there's some other suggestions on drinks that get the people going for your pregame. But we have none other than your vodka Red Bull, which this player is responsible for igniting some life into this Packers team, which is much needed. It feels like LaFleur comes out at halftime. His halftime speeches every week, we need to play with more energy and play with passion and something along the lines of energy. But Dave, I know there was a couple players that we could be able to pick from for this specific vodka Red Bull. Hey, let's get it going and provide that shot in the arm drink. But who is your vodka Red Bull type player here against the Eagles?
Definitely Keyshawn Nixon. Like, I don't, sometimes the alcohol doesn't hit you right away, and he starts off with the 9-yard kickoff return, but then he has back-to-back, not back-to-back, but he has two over 50-yard returns. So, I mean, and he played okay on defense, but it's beyond me how the coaching staff can like look at practice and look at Amari Rodgers fielding kickoff and punt returns, and you have Keyshawn Nixon behind him. Like, oh, let's go with Amari Rodgers for 8 weeks. That's just mind-boggling to me. But I forget when was the last time it happened, but it's been quite a long time since a Packer had two kickoff returns of more than 50 yards in the same game. And then I think he's already up there in league averages, and yardage. It's pretty freaking wild. Definitely gave us good field position, and some didn't always go as planned. But I mean, I would like to see him back next year. He's got that kind of Swerve Irvin mentality on the kickoffs.
He has some acceleration to him as well. I have no idea if it must be a matter if he runs a 4.3 and Amari Rodgers runs like a 4.6 or a 4.7. He caught the ball at least 2 times last night in the end zone, 3+ yards deep, and he's able to bring it out and get it to the 40 or 50 yard line. When you bring that up, what is it? Randall Cobb in his rookie year when he had that 108-yard touchdown against the Saints. Yeah. Would that have been a year that we had somebody bring the ball out and get us past the 40-yard line?
Probably Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde was probably one that can also.
Even though he was more primarily punt return, yeah. That could very well be the case. And it's like Kason Nixon and maybe a couple other players, Rashawn Gary before he got hurt, actually look like they're playing with pride out there. He's still flying around the field when he's playing slot corner. And then when he gets the kickoff, Matt LaFleur said today in his press conference that, hey, you scheme these things up and then it's great when they finally work. I'm thinking to myself, like, what were you scheming up when Amari Rodgers was back there getting drilled at the 10-yard line? And I don't know if you can combine an Irish car bomb with a vodka Red Bull, but that right there leads into the disaster of a season right there. You let Amari Rodgers cost you, as you brought up, a couple games. When Keyshawn Nixon, you've seen what you've had potentially, and you don't start him until 2 games ago.
This staff is slow to change. It's just the social media and the couch talk and stuff. It seems like everyone's seeing it, but them, or they're just refusing to go to what's eventually what everyone's been saying the whole time, right? I mean, it's whether it's special teams of Amari Rodgers shouldn't be out there, or Savage shouldn't be the safety anymore, which he played 1 snap at dime and then got hurt. It's just a giant, it's Irish car bomb is perfect for it. The whole decision-making of this team in terms of personnel and where the best players fit has just been poor. Very, very
It wasn't that long ago, Dave, in recent memory, that what's his name? Royce Newman and Jake Hansen were a part of our starting offensive line. I mean, what is that, like 3 Irish car bombs apiece just for those 2 players as is? I mean, it's everything, yeah. Which my dad texted me earlier today saying, I'm a carpenter and I have been my whole entire life, but he lists off all those things that you mentioned and maybe a couple more of like, hey, we're playing armchair quarterback at home and we're seeing these things. How is it the coaching staff is missing it? And LaFleur got asked during his presser today, are you making any changes with the defensive coordinator? It's been known for offense that if something's going wrong, you're changing the play callers. What is going on to defensive coordinators? To which LaFleur responded that nothing's happening. Nothing's changing. It all starts with me.
Yeah, it's kind of like it has that little, no one wants to make anyone feel bad, that little league vibe of, oh, we gotta let, so-and-so play, second base because it's his turn to play the infield, even though he's never gonna field a ground ball in his life, and has that feeling, right, where it's LaFleur wants to be kind of Mr. Nice Guy, and he's afraid to kind of sit, I guess, his personality favorites and instead of play the best talent. I don't know, that's kind of my look of it, or it's just he's so afraid to play newcomers and rookies that it's a detriment to the team.
He does look at it. I want to say he's taken on a Ted Thompson persona, which I want to say we could be able to delve into it during last call with JLove and some of the things that we've we've seen with LaFleur and Rodgers, and while they say it's happy-go-lucky, I'd gladly disagree with that. But yeah, whether it's the Packers' way of Ted Thompson and draft and develop and bringing them on slowly, or LaFleur refusing to make changes because he doesn't want to disrupt the locker room or what have you, it goes on and on and on with that. Moving on to the next segment here, so we're not dwelling all too much, because that was supposed to be a vodka Red Bull uplifting drink there that took a bit of a sour turn. I think someone just splashed a little bit of Red Bull in there, and it was mostly what is it, Svetka vodka, or even going back to NIU days.
Burnett's.
Yeah, I think that was a Burnett's vodka Red Bull right there. Blueberry edition. Moving on to cheers and jeers. That one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
We'll start out, since we went a little negative there, on the positive side with our jeers. Dave, I'll let you kick us off with your very first cheers.
We're gonna go Hollins. The new edge rusher edition. Actually set the edge in run defense, and he made a couple of nice pass rushes. I mean, got a sack his first game here, and so he's kind of like an intriguing guy the rest of the way of I'm sure he's playing to see if he can maybe make some money either here or elsewhere, and we're kind of taking a hard look at him. But yeah, I think he played hard, and I think for not knowing, he got there Thursday and he played Sunday, so for not knowing anything of the system, he played great. And I saw a really funny comment where someone said, "Oh, Nick Collins knows, or Hollins knows how to set the edge because he hasn't been taught by our coaching staff."
I'll say he'll turn into Rashawn Gary in true form here before you know it. He did though. He set the edge, and he had a run stop of, I want to say it was like a loss edge of like 1 yard. He got one of the only 2 sacks on the night. That's funny though. One practice. give him till next week, and he'll be peeking inside.
Who are you choosing to?
Cheers, which there's a number of ways that we can take it, not from a defensive perspective, because you really have to be splitting hairs to be able to pick a cheers for that one, which you found it. My cheers will go to none other than Christian Watson. The stats speak for himself. The man has 21 receptions, 6 of those being touchdowns. There was a post I saw on Facebook here today about like 5, bona fide number 1 wide receivers that have less touchdowns on the season than him. So it has to be Christian Watson. I was asked by some friends, "Hey, is he the real article?" And it goes back to a clip that I said early on, and maybe like week 4, that this offense won't start clicking until he's actually featured not only as a jet sweep and a quick out type receiver. We saw the speed. You texted me, "Wow," as soon as JLove was in there. I think I was a couple plays behind on my phone watching the game, and I'm like, this had to have been something good. They're at what, like the 50? They're in Packers territory. And you said, "Wow." I'm like, all right, that means it's going to be a long touchdown. Who else on our team is going to get a long touchdown at this point than Christian Watson? So when I was asked if he's the real article, I say yes. And if I have to make some NFL comparisons, I'm going to say he's a faster Jordy Nelson, but not as good of hands.
Okay. All right.
Or as good of route running yet. But take a look at it, though, which I'm not going to say he's going to be better than Devontae, because I think Devontae has some things that cannot be taught, and even just like the willpower and things like that. Devontae did not look like what Christian Watson is like in his rookie season. He had a couple of good games against the Cowboys and the Patriots, but the way that Christian Watson's career has started off, sky has to be the limit. What are your thoughts on him?
He looked like he was jogging on that touchdown run. Like, he was still pulling away, but I don't even know if he got into full gear yet. Like, he just completely erased the angles the defenders were taking on him. I think he's getting there. And I don't know if it's the Rodgers and Love thing, but he looked a lot more comfortable catching the ball from Love than he did from Rodgers. I don't know if it's I don't want to drop this because I'm getting thrown to by a future Hall of Famer, but Love zipped that in and he had no problem catching that in stride, not even a bobble, and just off he went. Um,
I think there's something to be
the
said there with the nightcap and JLove and a second shot in the arm and the energy around the team. But you're right. He looked a lot more comfortable. Even Alan Lazard looked different. It's still early, yes, but Goody, I think you found your one.
found your one?
I think Goody found his one. And
Think
for
he did.
time's sake, uh, we'll start with your jeer. There's a lot of places that you can go with this one, but I think you may want to just
Can
package
I
this
just
jeer up
yeah,
as a
just
whole.
we're just gonna say the whole run defense for not only this game but for probably the last 10 years. But no, I mean 360 yards rushing. They had more rushing yards than we had total yards. I mean, it was a Colin Kaepernick like performance, and they had the QB spy on him, and Walker looked lost out in space against Hurts, and then we finally kind of came back, and all you needed was you knew they were going to run the ball 3 times, just stop them. Couldn't even stop them on that last drive. Like it was just mind-boggling, and it goes from will and being able to physically tackle to the defensive game plan. Like at a certain point, just put 8 in the box and say, please throw it on us. Like you're paying these corners all sorts of money. Like, can we let them compete? Can we let them just go one-on-one if you can't stop? If you can't stop them with 6 in the box, just start adding guys.
And Quay Walker, he did. He's like he takes a step forward and he takes a step back, and we'll reason with it because he's a rookie
Yeah.
and he is on a similar trajectory potentially as like a Rashawn Gary. I think a lot of the times, which I'm starting to be conscientious of what our defensive fronts are, he gets eaten up by blockers like the likes of a Jason Kelsey and their bona fide offensive line, which is one of the tops in the league. A lot of times when that happens, we have not a 3 defensive line front, but a 2 defensive line front. And I was counting in the second half, we played almost half the snaps with a two down defensive line front, and they ran it every single time. And Quay Walker and McDuffie are getting washed out, and they're picking up first downs at will. Even on a 3rd and 7 shotgun formation, they handed the ball off and they picked it up easily.
Yeah. I think Barry just likes playing his nickel and dime defense. Like that's his style of play. And when you don't have guys that can make good angles to a ball carrier or wrap up, and you're just getting Dean Lowry just eaten up by the offensive line, and they're already getting to the second level, it's not a good look.
You brought up a funny comment. Dean Lowry has resorted to knowing the fact that he can't rush the passer. So his only pass rushing move that he have is wait for the quarterback to throw the ball and jump up in the air and hopefully deflect the pass.
But who's your dud of the game? Who's your jeer?
My jeer, which this is a hot take, as you mentioned before the show, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. The reason being, which I would not have given him this jeer until I saw Jordan Love come into the game. And I know this is for the nightcap, but there was a lot of contrast between the two. Aaron Rodgers had 2, or if not 3, and I would need to see the all 22 if there's any wide receiver opens, sacks that he should have gotten rid of the ball, which he didn't. And even there was one sack where he thought 39-year-old himself is going to split the defensive tackles and pick up the first down on a 3rd and long. You're not that quarterback anymore, and there was no room there. So I'm going to give it to Aaron Rodgers for that. His very first interception that he had, you could tell he was throwing it a little bit differently with this thumb to Alan Lazard, and it goes off the helmet of Darius Slay, which I thought that was a really odd play. And then a second one to Tyler Davis. He's like, he should have been running a different route. But either way, though, that interception reminded me of the game against the Detroit Lions where another safety came out of nowhere and was basically baiting Aaron Rodgers. This safety who baited Aaron Rodgers against the Eagles was some guy like walking the streets not too long ago. He picked off Rodgers and read the route perfectly. And then the Lions safety did the same exact thing. So Aaron Charles Rodgers, you are taking the jeer for this week because of the sacks that you were responsible for and at least one of the 2 interceptions. Matt LaFleur says it's all about the ball. Well, you need to do a better job of protecting it.
Wow, man, you're really coming after a guy with just a broken down body who turns 39 this week.
I'll take it back a step. I have to give a jeer to somebody. I'll at least give Aaron Rodgers a bit of kudos for taking on the Brett Favre Iron Man mentality, even though he can't do it quite to the same caliber. I know you brought up that Brett's cost us games, but Brett also on a bum ankle had 5 touchdowns when he's all hopped up on some drug against the Bears in '95. But yeah, if I got to give a jeer to somebody on the offensive side after seeing, which this is a good segue to last call with JLove, but that's the biggest reason for that and not sticking to LaFleur's offense.
So the parallels between Favre and Rodgers and Love has gotten a whole lot more interesting this week because I texted you during the game. I said, now it's tomorrow, but during the game, Rodgers first came in 07 for Favre, who couldn't finish a game 15 years ago tomorrow. Love comes in for a broken down Aaron Rodgers yesterday, and it's just kind of, and he looks good. Rodgers looked good in his debut. Like the parallels are pretty strong now. It's year 3. It was year 3 for Rodgers. Love looked good. You have to wonder if Rodgers has been gutting it out because he knows what Love has in practice, and he's just like, it's an ego thing now where it's like
Dave, that's probably one of your best takes of the season to date.
Hey.
I will say 110% you are right. Even though he said, like, as long as we're mathematically in it, I'm going to play, but he will do everything in his power because think about it. What an interesting position to be in. He was that guy how many years ago? And I even think, just to tack one more on there, wasn't the Cowboys record in 07 also very similar to the Eagles of 9-1?
They were 10-1. So it was a 9-1 Eagles team, so NFC East, and 15 years ago it was a 10-1 Cowboys team, NFC East. It doesn't get any really stranger than that. It was in Dallas, it was in Philly. It's pretty crazy.
And both of them, like, they're coming from behind, even though I think Rodgers went in like the second quarter of that game.
Yeah.
They were also Thursday night games. That was like one of the first years that NFL Network was doing their Thursday night, and I was pulling it up on my dial-up internet, I want to say, at the time, and missing half of it. Think about how weird that has to be for Rodgers in the locker room with his rib injury or whatever he has, to almost like take a look in the mirror and see himself all those years ago. And the way that Love came in and he owned it. He's like, hey, I may not have another opportunity to showcase what I have. And he came in and he was getting after it.
I mean, it was flick of the wrist, ball just shooting out of his hand type stuff, like throwing in anticipation, knowing your read and saying, I don't care who the first read is. Like, I'm going to throw it if they're open. You could have had old man Sammy Watkins being the first read, and he probably would have slung it in there. Like, he's just like, okay, I'm going to trust the guy to be in his spot and catch the ball, and my job is to read the defense and throw it in the right spot, and it's their job to do whatever else with the ball. So, I mean, he had that whole shot to Aaron Jones, who dropped it, was a throw. Like, now
that was probably one of, I don't know, like, his top 3 throws as Packers was, but like, he had a preseason throw to Juwan Winfrey that he dropped it in the bucket. It was like similar to that type of throw. I'm like, that is like a top 10 quarterback throw. You put it on him a little bit hot, but Aaron Jones, even though he's a running back, he should make that catch. So I do want to give credit to JLove. There's 2 things with that. Number one, are the Eagles playing a prevent defense at that time? So of course he's going to pick up some more yardage than what you typically would if it's a tighter ball game. And then also, is that what the LaFleur's offense is designed to look like at its core, getting rid of the ball in rhythm, as Rodgers likes to talk about, but he doesn't always do because he has flashbacks to his prime years and when he's escaping the pocket and finding Jordy or James or Greg downfield. But wouldn't you like to think that has to be LaFleur's offense as it should be, and that Rodgers should maybe take more of the blame for some of these woes throughout the season?
Starting to look like it, right? I mean, even the naysayers and the people were like, "Oh, we only threw it 15 yards to Christian Watson, and he did the rest." Have we seen a play like that this whole year? Have we seen anything that resembled that the entire year? Like, the quarterback's job is to make this decision and put it where it is. And Rodgers likes to kind of dance around, even though he can't get out of the pocket anymore. And Love looked like, I'm going to stay in the pocket, I'm going to make my reads, and if it's not there, I'll escape and we'll do a second reaction play. Like, it was crisper. It looked like ball was actually on time, like getting, but I think that's what LaFleur's offense looks like. And I think we're going to be stuck in this mind of wills between LaFleur and Rodgers until Rodgers is eventually somewhere else. Whether that's
here's another interesting. I think you had alluded to this earlier that I want to touch upon it. So once again, it's one of those things where we're at home on our couch. I'm on a plane watching on my phone, but we see the TV broadcast. They show us certain things. Now we know about the Rodgers scoffs and his body language and this and that. Is it just me, Dave, or did you feel the same thing when they were showing the sidelines with JLove? And they're like, I felt an energy spark on the sidelines. I saw Josh Myers come up, tap him on the helmet like we got this. I saw him and LaFleur interacting in a very positive way. Is it just me, or did you feel that as well? There has to be some riffraff between not only Rodgers and LaFleur, but also Rodgers and the rest of this team.
Yeah, there's a different vibe. But like, how far do you want to take that vibe? Is it happy for Love because Love's been sitting back there and Love's probably a good guy and like they're just happy that a backup is actually playing well and showing out and like they're just happy for him? Or is it like an actual vibe? Like they probably thought they were kind of close to being put away. So there's also that like young man in energy. Love's 23, like Rodgers is 39. Like, of course the younger guys are gonna like be more, drawn to it. Although Campbell did say a couple weeks ago on a podcast that Love's a starting quarterback, so they see it, and so it'll be interesting, man. It'll be interesting. Like, what does Matt?
It's a vibe, Dave. I'll say this for two reasons. Well, it's really one, but things that I pick up on, like on the Pat McAfee show, and then during the Dallas game, very first one on the Pat McAfee show, whether he meant it or not, I think in no way, shape, or form should you ever refer to your head coach as an angry elf. He called Matt LaFleur an angry elf, which that shows sort of the power imbalance right there. And he's always talked about on the Pat McAfee show that they rib LaFleur here and there when he talks in front of the room, and his jokes are getting better and this and that. I think that's an ego thing where Rodgers sees him as not as maybe as an equal, or that he's above LaFleur. And then the second thing was the thing that I saw on the sideline after that 2-minute drive against the Cowboys where we did nothing with it. Rodgers proceeded to go to the sidelines and feud LaFleur's ass. Whereas I think if I'm LaFleur, I'm probably going to be much more excited when my backup Jordan Love, who I've been grooming, sort of like Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. This is my guy. Think about how enthusiastic he was on draft night, drafting JLove. But I think there's a vibe to it.
All right. We'll see, man. Looking ahead, so we're against the Bears. It's Bears week. Looking ahead, like there's gonna be guys that want to like lose to get better draft positions. I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those to lose either to be mathematically eliminated. It's Bears week. We gotta beat the Bears. We gotta get, we gotta pass them for all-time wins NFL history for a franchise record. And then after that, just let the chips fall where they may. I don't think this team has the discipline or the talent to run the table like we did in 16. So sooner or later, I'm going to enjoy the wins when they stack up. And then when eventually we pick up a loss and it's Love's turn, then I'll be excited for the Watsons and the Dobbs. If Dobbs comes back, it'll be actually more exciting because then it'll be Love, Dobbs, and Watson. It'll be like, okay, this has the building blocks of possibly the future, either next year or the year after.
Dobbs was practicing on the sidelines this past week, so that has to be encouraging of the Packers of the future. I know I made a joke about this, Dave, 2 weeks ago about tanking and starting to throw games, but is carrying the G like rooting against your team to lose? Well, at the end of the day, yeah, sure, I want a top 10 draft pick like no other. I don't think I have it in me to actually root against the Packers, to lose against the Bears or any of these other final 5 opponents.
No. Even if we win out and we don't get help and we still lose, we don't make that final wild card spot, I still want us to win every freaking game.
I don't even know if Justin Fields is playing this game. I watched Nathan Peterman, who should not be in the NFL. I don't know if he's blackmailing somebody or saw something that he shouldn't and holding it as leverage. I watched him stink up the joint against the Jets here this past Sunday and let some guy by the name of White at quarterback beat him. I'm trying to think back, maybe the Hundley year, but and then when the Bears in 2018 when they did the double doink, but this has to be what? Maybe less than a handful of games where I'm going into Bears week and I'm like, I'm not sure if we're going to come out on the right side of this.
Does Fields need to throw the ball? Like, does he need a working shoulder? Like, just run the option like he did in Ohio State. Like, and I'm sure you could get 400 yards rushing. Like,
D. Lowry's not going to catch him. Quake Water will likely be picked up by a guard.
That's another guy too. Like, once it's all said and done, you just want to develop. Like, can we get Dean out and play Wyatt? Like, can we play some guys that like actually we could try to develop? Like, there's too many slow, old, like guys that we've known for years that just aren't difference makers. Can we try to just develop young talent if the season's finally goes like the way once you're mathematically eliminated, can we just get like Rodgers and a couple of these other guys? Like Watkins should never take another snap the rest of the year. Like just player development. Like that is what actually we should be watching and getting excited for at this kind of point in the year.
Yeah, where's Heflin been at? I will say I've been starting to take note of it during games. Devontae Wyatt is starting to get more snaps, but in true base defense, lunch pail Dean Lowry is in there and he's getting throw back at least 4 yards.
Oh, geez.
And Justin Fields going into last week was the number 5 rusher in the NFL. So your point about throwing the ball, no, he doesn't need to do that. Run option all game, and I think you'll be more than fine, especially if Darnell Savage's injury is not correct. You'll get a couple chicken wings thrown at you, and you'll pick it up extra 15.
We need Darnell Savage's chicken wings in Dean Lowry's lunch bucket. That's exactly what we want. But
it's a great meal to have.
But all right, bud, we're gonna basically sign out now. We got a minute left, but always fun chatting with you. And holidays were good, and now we got Bears week coming up. So
bear down, Chicago Bears. Actually, the Bears still suck, but yes, Dave, cheers to some new wrinkles being enrolled.
There you go. All right, have a good week, bud.
You too.